One way to think about yourself is as a personality. You are a type 3 on the Enneagram, or an ESFP, or on the Myers-Briggs, or a DC on the DISC test, or whatever your paradigm is. And that's great. The problem is it does not capture the complexity of the human condition. There are more than 9 personality types, or 16, or 12, or whatever your rubric is. And one high-level psychologist said to me recently, after an in-depth training on bioenergetics, which is this fascinating new body-based differential psychology, that's a whole other story. But at the end of the training, he said to me, "John Mark, you're not that. You're not only that. You're not even that." So another way to think about yourself is not as a personality, but as a family of sub-personalities. Now, as weird as that might sound, I find it far more in line with biblical theology, where God, on the first page of the Bible, is 3 in 1, meaning God is relational to the core. Let us make mankind in our image. And we are made in the image of God, meaning we are relational to the core. As our favorite resident theologian, Dr. Gary Bashir, has put it, God is a family who makes family. In the words of the psychologist and spiritual director David Benner, what we call I is really a family of many part selves. For example, I know a ton of you are into the Enneagram, some of you way too much, God bless you. And under that theory, there are 9 basic personality types, and the experts argue that you have all 9 in you. But one, for most people, is dominant. But they also argue that you have a number you go to under stress, and another that you integrate to health in, and depending on who you read, you also have a wing or a second wing as you age. Now, whatever you think of the Enneagram, whether you love it or hate it, either way, that's just an attempt to name the felt experience of sub-personalities. And the problem, and just bear with me if this sounds a little kooky to you, the problem is our sub-personalities all have their own agenda, and the soul is often a kind of Darwinian survival of the fittest battleground. Richard Foster does a great job of naming the inner tug-of-war that a lot of us feel. Within all of us is a whole conglomerate of selves, and each of these selves are rugged individualists. Each one screams to protect his or her vested interests. If a decision is made to spend a relaxed evening listening to Chopin, the business self and the civic self rise up and protest at the loss of precious time. The energetic self paces back and forth, impatient and frustrated. The religious self reminds us of the lost opportunities for study or evangelistic contact. No wonder we overcommit our schedules and, listen to his line, live lives of frantic faithfulness. Man, I don't know about you. Does that ring true for you? It really does for me. So internal family systems therapy is all about how do we integrate our sub-personalities around a center. A great example of it is actually the movie Inside Out, which was made, I think, by a Christian. And it's a little weird. It's the one Pixar movie my kids don't love. I think it is brilliant. There's literally a cockpit at the center of the human person and 5 emotions that are personified. That is an attempt. It's all about how we integrate our sub-personalities, which is really the job of the soul and of soul formation. A lot of people think of the soul as the wispy kind of invisible part of you that when you die goes up to heaven in the cartoon bubble. That view of the soul comes from Plato and Looney Tunes, not at all from the Bible. In biblical theology, the soul is your whole person, from your heart up into your mind and your central nervous system and out through your body. In biblical theology, for example, you don't have a body, you are a body, meaning it's a part of who you are. Resurrection of the dead, it's a core tenet of the Christian faith. That is God's yes to your body, not just now, but for forever. This is key because if we misunderstand what the soul is, we misunderstand how to take care of it and what it means for Jesus to save it. Remember, and I know I say this a lot, but the Greek word that we translate save in the New Testament is soteria. It's where we get the theological category of soteriology, which is the doctrine of salvation. And it's the same word that that in the NIV and most English translations is translated as heal. So when you're reading through the Gospels and you read that Jesus saved somebody, and then a paragraph later you read that Jesus healed somebody, you're reading the exact same Greek word. Even the English word of salvation, the etymology of that is from the Latin word salve, as in an ointment that you put on for the healing of a wound. And that's what it is. Salvation isn't about the wispy cartoon part of you floating up to heaven when you die. It's about the healing and the health of your soul now and into eternity, your whole person, as you come back into union with the Trinitarian community of God through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus and the coming of the Spirit into the temple of your body to make you a son or a daughter of God the Father. That, my friends, is a biblical theology of the soul. Now, in a secular frame, psychologists who attempt to name healing in other kinds of language call it integration. I actually really like that language. When we're not integrated, they would argue, around a center, we feel torn and tense and tired all of the time. But when we are integrated, we come to a focal point and we feel at peace with reality.